Do you sometimes also hate small talk? Well, then you're not alone. And in this video, I will share with you my experiences. Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Flow of Consciousness YouTube channel. And in this video, I will be talking about my love-hate relationship with small talk. I used to hate small talk. As an introvert, small talk felt like a barrier between me and the other person that I was trying to connect with. I experienced small talk as some kind of shield that people used to protect themselves in order not to have to go too deep into conversation and to not share too many of their personality traits or their fears or the things that keep them busy, right? So I really didn't like to engage in conversations with a lot of small talk. So I purposefully avoided interactions and social environments where I knew I had to engage in small talk. So as an introvert, I didn't really like to spend time at parties or social gatherings where I didn't really know too many people, because I knew that if I would go in there, I would have to engage in small talk, and I really, really didn't like it. I was so against it, so much so that I started to avoid situations where I knew I would have to engage in this type of conversation. Now, I felt frustrated and stuck because of that, because I, of course, had a need to connect with people and to have conversations. So I wanted to look for ways to break this pattern. And after struggling with this for a few years, I came to realize a few very important things about small talk. And the moment, I still remember the moment that this happened, I came to understand that small talk could actually become a segue into the meaningful, deepening conversations that I was looking for. So I remember this time when I was traveling to Colombia, and it was a really amazing trip. South America is a place that's very, very close to my heart. And I remember I was staying at a dorm in Bogota, the capital of Colombia, and the dorm was completely empty. So I was basically living there like in a private room for the price of a dorm, which was great. Now, one day there was one extra guest, and there was one girl who entered the dorm, and she was going to sleep there for a few nights. And I decided to go strike up a conversation with her. And naturally, when I start a conversation with someone one-on-one, I tend to go very deep, very fast. So I ask very personal questions like, what brought you here? What are the things that are keeping you busy? Do you have big fears? Like, I want to know, who are you? I want to immediately go into a conversation that is meaningful from my perspective. Now, she acted very uncomfortable as I was conversing with her, and at some point she interrupts me and she says, "You know that this is a very intimate thing to ask to a stranger. I don't even know you. You do realize that asking these questions and having a conversation like this can be very rude." And I was baffled. I was absolutely I couldn't understand that I hadn't realized that my conversation style could come across as rude simply because I had good intentions. I just wanted to connect. I wanted to get to know her. I wanted to understand her inner workings. I wanted to connect on a soul-to-soul, heart-to-heart level. But as she said it so bluntly, it really struck me. I was absolutely baffled by her feedback. And after that, I felt so intensely guilty about it because I was not aware that my behavior could come across as rude to another person. And it really made me think about my behavior. I started questioning my whole conversational toolkit, if you will. I started to question, what if everybody actually feels like I'm rude by asking these type of questions and having this style of conversation? And what if I have been doing it wrong all the time since forever, right? So I started to really think and take her feedback seriously. And what I came to realize, what I came to understand is that small talk can actually be a very powerful tool. Like I said earlier, it can be a segue into the deep and meaningful conversations that I'm actually looking for. So it really shook me to my core when she gave me that feedback. And I started to read about small talk on the internet. I started to look up a few videos on YouTube. And more I came to realize that small talk serves its purpose in social situations. It actually shows that you are a sociable person who can have a lighthearted conversation with a stranger without being too pushy. You can have conversations about the weather and maybe your job or trivial things, but the undertone is actually in order to establish trust. So small talk serves a purpose in the conversation where initially you don't know the person, so you don't know whether you can trust them or not. Now, engaging in a small talk conversation can actually establish this trust because it shows that you can have a pleasant, non-intrusive conversation that is not pushy, but you can gauge a lot of the behavior of the other person based on the way they interact during the small talk part of the conversation. So I came to realize that, hold on a second, small talk is actually a tool for me to get to the point where I actually want to get in the conversation, which is a deep and meaningful interaction where we get to know each other, right? So it really shows that you are a sociable person who is able to sustain a lighthearted conversation over some time, right? Of course, you don't want to get stuck in the small talk phase forever. I know people who would be conversing in small talk for 2 hours. That is not what I want to do. And I think that not too many people actually want that. Most people would like to have some kind of progression in the conversation, in the interaction, because it's just more meaningful to do that. At least for me it is. And talking about trivial, non-important things for 2 hours can be super, super boring, and people can be thinking in the back of their mind, oh, when is this boring conversation finally gonna end? But the initial stages of the conversation, small talk serves a very, very important purpose. And I really came to value that part of the conversation. And I realized that I can apply this in my own life and in my own interactions. And from that moment onwards, I thank that girl who was so blunt and gave me her honest, truthful, genuine feedback, which made me really think. From that moment onwards, I started to implement small talk into my conversations in the start, and I changed my perspective, and this caused me to come across as way more natural. I didn't feel as frustrated with this part of the conversation because I understood this is going to allow me to build the trust and to create a sense of togetherness where we can show each other that we are sociable human beings who can have a lighthearted, non-pushy conversation, and then we can transition into more meaningful topics. So this is how I came to understand the value of small talk in my own life, and I want to invite you to think about this for yourself. Do you hate small talk because you're more like an introvert? Do you also experience small talk as some kind of barrier that people pull up in order to protect themselves from actually going deeper into the conversation? Or can you now understand that small talk can really serve its purpose. And it can actually be very pleasant and enjoyable. You can make it fun, you can tell some jokes, you can share a short story. These are things that you can incorporate in your small talk conversation, which make it more interesting or engaging for yourself too. You don't have to necessarily talk about the weather. You can pick a topic that you're at least somewhat interested in and then build from there, right? So for me, this is a crucial realization that I learned through my travels, and that has proven to be very, very useful, because now I feel so much more comfortable having small talk with people and I understand its value. So please let me know in the comments if you struggle with this yourself, if you feel like you want to share something about your own experiences. And with this video, I hope I can make you think about this for yourself, and I hope I can make you re-evaluate your perspective on small talk, because for me it was a tremendous shift in my attitude and in my results too. So I invite you to do the same. And on that note, I want to end this video, and I want to thank you for being brave. I want to thank you for working on yourself, looking inwards, and making yourself and thus the world a better place, one step at a time. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.